So, piety and righteousness in every act of obedience to Allah on the people, and you forget to practice it yourselves. Now, this is a great lesson. We could probably do the whole class on this right here. Because how often do we say to our children, don't do as I do, do as I say do. Has anybody ever heard that before? Don't raise your hand. So, Allah is talking to the people here, saying, how is it, now these were people of the book, how is it that you enjoy righteousness, but you're not being righteous? Because you're not presenting the truth. You're mixing truth with falsehoods. You're using your power in an unjust way. Similar to the story that we had with Suleiman and Abu Hazm, the lesson, the teacher. And it says that these people that recite scriptures, I used to call them Bible thumpers, now I have to call them Quran thumpers. You meet them, they come to you and they tell you, like, Surah, and then you see them, but they're not doing it. It's like the person that says, oh, don't you know when you're praying you're not supposed to do this? And you say, well, how did you know what I was doing if you were concentrating on your prayer?
Yeah.
You know? It's like, but you kindly take the telephone pole out of your eye before you take the toothpick out of mine.
It happened to me.
Yes. The condemnation of commanding others to observe righteousness while ignoring righteousness. Allah said, how is it, O people of the book, that you command people to perform righteousness and piety, which encompasses all types of righteousness, yet forget yourselves, and do not heed what you call others to? And you read Allah's book, the Torah, and know what it promises to those who do not fulfill Allah's commandment. In other words, you know the warnings that is there, and yet you don't take heed. You're not afraid to not follow this new message. You're not afraid to not join those people who are bowing to the one God, the one Creator. Have you no sense of what you are doing to yourselves, so that you might become aware of your slumber and restore your sight from blindness? Here we're talking about spiritual blindness, folks. That whenever we do wrong, whenever we go against the will of Allah, and we consistently do that, and we sell our truth for a small price, we become spiritually blind. And that's when people say, I'm not angry, what are you talking about? The whole world knows you're angry except you. You don't even know what you're doing anymore. Never mind what you're teaching. But the whole world knows you better than you know yourself. I'm a therapist, and I have people every day that come in my office and they don't know themselves. I'll say, well, why did you do that? They'll say, I don't know. I say, well, who should I ask? Should I ask your husband why you did that? Or should I ask Allah? Or you mean you don't know why you're doing what you're doing? Abdul Razak said that Ma'amar stated that Qatada commented on Allah's statement in verse 44, enjoin you piety and righteousness and every act of obedience to Allah on the people, and you forget to practice it yourselves. The children of Israel used to command people to obey Allah, fear Him, and perform these acts of righteousness and piety. Yet they contradicted these orders. So Allah reminded them of this fact. Asudi said similar thing. Ibn Jurayj said that ayat 44, thank you. Enjoin you, albeit right conduct on the people, is about the people of the book and the hypocrites. They used to command people to pray and fast. However, they did not practice what they commanded others. Allah reminded them of this behavior. So whoever commands people to do righteousness, let him be among the first of them to implement that command. A lot of us like to tell people what to do, but we don't like to do it. And we're warned here. Also Muhammad bin Ishaq narrated that Ibn Abbas said that, and you forget yourselves, means you forget to practice it yourself. In other words, you have this knowledge, and people will say all the time, I know the Quran says that, but, and they put their but in it, and that messes up everything.
No, but.
No buts. Because that's what this is talking about, folks. This is the but population in the community. We hear it every day. I know the Quran says I know I should pray right now, but the NFL is old. I know I should pray, but Wimbledon is old. I know I should pray, but my stories are old. But not enough. And then we tell our children, oh, stop for Allah, you didn't pray as soon as you came in from school today. Mommy, Daddy, did you pray when NFL was on? Did you pray when your story was on, Mommy? Are you enjoining me to do what is right while you are not doing it? We're all giggling because it's so familiar, isn't it? While you recite the scripture, the Torah, have you then no sense? You forbid the people from rejecting the prophethood and the covenant. Remember we talked about the covenant that you have mentioned with you in the Torah, while you yourselves have forgotten it, meaning that you have forgotten the covenant that I made with you, that you will accept my messenger. You have breached my covenant and rejected what you know is in my book. Therefore Allah admonished the Jews for this behavior and alerted them to the wrongs that they were perpetrating against themselves by ordering righteousness, yet refraining themselves from righteousness. Allah is not criticizing the people of the book for ordering righteousness, because enjoining good is a part of righteousness and is an obligation for the scholars. We are to enjoin what is right and forbid what is wrong. And it seems that we're real good at the first part, verbally anyway. But we sort of fall behind on B, forbidding, avoiding what is forbidden. The scholar himself is required to heed, to adhere to what he invites others to. For instance, Prophet Shuaib said in Surah 11 and verse 88, I wish not in contradiction to you to do that which I forbid you. I only desire reform to the best of my power, and my guidance cannot come except from Allah. In Him I trust, and unto Him I repent. All the prophets had this message. May Allah be pleased with them. That we should do what is commanded in the holy books, and we should avoid what is prohibited. That's why they were all teaching us the way to a watering hole. They were all teaching us a straight path. Enjoining righteousness and performing righteousness are both required. Enjoining and performing. When I'm sitting at a table and I'm gossiping, am I enjoining righteousness?
No.
No. Am I performing it? Heck no. Neither category is rendered not necessary by the practice of the other, according to the most correct view of the scholars. Imam Ahmad reported that Abu Wa'il said, while I was riding behind Usama, he was asked, why not advise Uthman? He said, do you think that if I advise him, I should allow you to hear it? I advise him in secret, and I will not start something that I would hate to be the first to start. I will not say to a man, you are the best man, even if he was my leader, after what I heard from the Messenger of Allah. They said, what did he say? He said, I heard him say, a man will be brought on the day of resurrection and thrown into fire. His intestines will fall out, and he will continue circling, pulling them behind him, just as the donkey goes around the pole. The people of the fire will go to that man and ask him, what happened to you? Did you not use to command us to do righteous acts and forbid us from committing evil? He will say, yes, I used to enjoin righteousness, but refrain from performing righteousness. And I used to forbid you to perform evil while I myself did it. That's just a taste of the penalty, folks. For those people who enjoin what is right and forbid what is... For those people who enjoin what is right but don't do it themselves, that's just a great hadith to remember. That might be a hadith that you want to take a picture of, put it on a post-it, put it in your car, just to remind you. This is Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Okay. You're welcome. In chapter 61, verses 2 to 3 in the Holy Quran, O you who believe, why do you say that which you do not do? Most hateful it is to Allah that you say that which you do not do. Why do you say that the wedding will be at 7, but you don't arrive until 9:30?
Yeah.
Why do you say that the meeting will start at 6:30 and you don't arrive till 8?
11.
Why do you say that I will give you $3,000 for your car, and after you pay $2,500, all of a sudden you can't find that other $500? We've all had these experiences. Unfortunately from Muslims, yes.
Yes.
And I think this verse we need after that. And seek help in patience and as-salah, the prayer. And truly it is extremely heavy and hard, except for al-kashiyin. They are those who are certain that they are going to meet their Lord, and that unto Him they are going to return. What is the message here, folks? Those people that are going to meet their Lord are the ones that do what? In the context, that enjoy righteous and practice righteousness. In verse 40 through 46, Allah reminds the Israelites of the blessings He has bestowed upon them and invites them to Islam and to good deeds. The support that comes with patience and prayer. And this I want to talk about today, and then we'll go back, inshallah, next week and pick this subject back up again. And make sure I stay on focus with my time. Allah commanded His servants to use patience and prayer to acquire the good of this life and the hereafter. So there are two accoutrements, there are two elements that you must have to be a successful Muslim. You must have patience, sabr, and you must have established prayer. And I think the biggest problem I see in our ummah today is that we have not established prayer. And because we have not established prayer, we don't have any patience. Because you see, one develops the other. It takes patience to stop 5 times a day and pray. And it takes patience to pray with khushu'. Muqatil bin Hayyan said that this ayat means utilize patience and the obligatory prayer in seeking the hereafter. As for patience here, they say that it means fasting. There are similar texts reported from Mujahid, Al-Qurtubi, and other scholars commenting, this is why Ramadan is called the month of patience, as is mentioned in the hadith literature. Sabr, patience, and salat, and fasting, and next we'll be moving into paying zakat. All of these acts. See, it even takes patience to calculate what you should pay to Allah. Yes, sister?
What's khushu'?
Khushu' is presence of heart or humbleness of heart. So that when we pray, and I'm going to talk about that inshallah today in detail. It was also said that patience in this ayah means refraining from evil. It takes patience to refrain from evil, doesn't it, folks? And this is why patience was mentioned along with practicing acts of worship, especially and foremost the prayer. Also, Ibn Abi Hatim narrated that Umar bin al-Khattab said, there are two types of patience. Good patience when the disaster strikes, and a better patience while avoiding the prohibitions of Allah. The kind of patience that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you a test with your children, your finances, or your health, you say, Alhamdulillah. You say, I don't understand it, but this is from Allah. There's something in the hidden, unseen, that I don't understand, but Alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed me and given it to me. And there's some people in this room that really know about that. Ibn Abi Hatim said that Al-Hasan al-Basri was reported to have said a similar thing. It was also said that, sorry, am I on the, did I go to the, I'm having a hard time with my clicker today. The love of money and power made it hard for the people of the book, especially their scholars, to accept Islam. Imagine, we're in control. We've got the monopoly. We've got the big numbers. And if you look at it, we're seeing a correlation to that today. We're seeing that many evangelicals are very afraid of Islam because of its growth. They have the power right now. There are people that will tell you that this is a Christian country, right? So, and they are doing everything they can, even burning our Qurans.
Even joining with the Jews.
Yep. They're doing everything they can to try to quieten the truth. The verses prescribe the remedy for the disease of power, greed, and resistance to truth. Listen up, folks. There's some real golden nuggets in this today. Fortify themselves with patience, sabr, and prayer, salah. Patience is a very weak translation of the Arabic word sabr, which has three connotations: bearing pain and misfortune patiently, restraining oneself from sin, and being steadfast in obeying Allah. Three things. I would recommend that you take a picture of this, and your weekly goal this week is to focus on this, to focus on these three parts of sabr. And whenever you're ready, I'll go to the next slide.
Thank you. Okay, Larry, I got
Patience in the wide sense is the perfect remedy for the love of money. You see, when you don't have money, it requires a lot of patience. When you look around and you see that it seems that everybody around you is doing better than you are, it requires a lot of patience because you start getting frustrated. And these are all nice words for being angry or ticked off. But we dress up things so nicely as a human being. You know, we say, well, you know, that person sort of got under my skin. They get on my nerves. Or that sort of bothered me just a little bit. Meanwhile, you know you're so angry you're about to burst. But we dress it up and we minimize it, do all that kind of stuff. Money cannot be an end in itself, but is sought only as a means of satisfying one's appetites. When a man has made a firm resolve to follow his appetites like a slave, he will no longer need much money, nor will the love of money bind him to the distinction between his gain and loss. There are many people that you will speak to. I promise you to take note this week. You'll even remember from last week that everything is measured in this life based on the bottom line. It's all about the bottom line in their life. What does my bank account look like? If my bank account doesn't look good, I'm not patient. And all you got to do is ask a wife about her husband when his bank account's not looking good. Or vice versa, maybe. Whoever handles the bill in the house. Similarly, salah is the remedy for ambition and the love of power. Sounds very simple, doesn't it, folks? But if that's the first thing that we're going to be asked about on the Day of Judgment, is our salah. The very first thing. Yes, salah is prayer. And please, Aaron, if I say anything, any word at all that you don't know what it means, please raise your hand and ask because...
I know.
Okay, but please feel free. We want you to feel free to ask questions, okay? Because sometimes I get on a roll, so you just stop me, okay? Please, all right? We want you to have your questions answered. Outwardly and inwardly both, salah involves the exercise of humility. Naturally, the more one tries to perform it in the proper manner, the more it purifies him or her of the love of money and power, and of ambition and pride. You see, it is the very pride that stops us from going to the prayer. Sometimes we're in a public place, we'll look for every excuse in the book not to pray. Sometimes I say to people, listen, brother, listen, just make sure you pray. Go sit on a bench somewhere, make sure there's a sutra and pray your prayer. It's more important to pray than to worry about how you're going to pray. Just make sure you pray. We'll say, oh, no. Well, you know, it's, that bench is dirty. Or we'll find an excuse, you know. These are the real core of all spiritual disorders in man. Once they are brought under control, it becomes easy for one to accept Islam and to be steadfast in one's faith. A lady in her 90s this week was visiting my wife. There were two ladies actually in their 90s, right? And the one is refusing to walk with the cane. I think she's 93. And so her mate, they were both missionaries in Africa for over 60 years, said pride goeth before the fall. See, even my beloved Christians and Jewish people, they know that pride goes before the fall. While patience, sabr, requires only the restraining or giving up of excessive appetites and unnecessary desires, salah, in addition to all this, further requires the performance of certain actions and a temporary renunciation of perfectly lawful desires and of many human needs which the Sharia allows one to fulfill. Everybody's wondering, what in the world is he talking about, right? I see it. Let's look at the next slide. Eating, drinking, speaking, and walking. Whenever we go to pray, we cease to eat, which is a human desire. It's an appetite. That's what we get, is an appetite to eat, right? Sometimes we have an appetite to go for a walk, don't we? I just want to get out of the house. I'm fed up with that, man. I'm fed up with these children. I can't take it anymore. I'm going for a walk. I got an appetite to go for a walk. I got to talk to somebody. I got an appetite. I just need to be heard. Are these appetites or not, folks? Making such a renunciation 5 times during the day and the night, regularly at fixed times. 5 times I deny myself eating, drinking, speaking, walking, for the sake of Allah. Salah means performing certain prescribed actions and restraining oneself from all lawful and unlawful activities at fixed hours. Operative word, fixed times. Once one has decided to give up unnecessary desires, the instinctive urge itself loses its intensity in a few days. Folks, I want you to hang on to that because it just sounds like words right now. But when you approach Allah and you go to prayer, and if you think that as I go here, I'm giving up those things that I normally do, walking, talking, arguing with my husband or wife, arguing with my children. Some people love that stuff, you know. Some people actually like it. I know you probably think I'm nuts, but you know I'm telling you for Rizzo Bastizzle. Some people look for an argument.
Yeah.
They even say, are you trying to pick a fight with me? They know what you're doing. Say, are you picking a fight with me? Like, I'm confused, but I think I know what's going on here. So the exercise of patience is not, after all, so difficult. Offering salah entails submitting oneself to the conditions laid down by the Sharia, observing the fixed hours, and giving up the basic human activities and desires, all of which is quite exacting for the instinctive disposition of man. You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Holy Quran that man was born with a uneasy spirit. You want to calm that uneasy spirit? Just go and stand before Allah in humility, recognizing that you're giving up all of those things, all of those appetites. Stand before Allah and think of a humble heart. Offering salah entails submitting oneself to the conditions laid down by the Sharia, observing the fixed hours, and giving up the basic human activities and desires, all of which is quite exacting for the instinctive disposition of man. For the purpose of making it easy for one to accept Islam and to be steadfast in his faith, the Holy Quran prescribes sabr and salah, the two S's. Or the two saws, I should say in Arabic. Because it's the saw that they begin with. Salah is not a burden to the humble in heart, but it's a burden to the proud. You see, when you are cocky and you got your appetite, I got to see that NFL. I can't miss that play. I can't miss that ball game. It's what I want. I'm living by my desires. My desires are God in my life. I'm going to have what I want. I'm going to have mine. People say that and they laugh about it. They think it's cute. I'm going to have mine. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
See you in North Carolina.
Yeah, my wife said she can tell I was in North Carolina last week.
The trip. Yeah.
Yeah, I do pick up my accent again when I go back. If salah is burdensome, it means we have the disease of desire, whereby our hearts desire to roam about freely in the vast spaces of thought and fancy. In other words, when we go before Allah, we fail to be grateful. We fail to remember what Allah has done for us. And our mind has a desire to roam. And so when you say Allahu Akbar, you say, oh, did I pay that bill? I can't remember. Oh, did I reply to that email or not? Oh, I think I heard my phone ringing. And our desires are running crazy. Our appetites to keep up with the world. So if you find salah is a burden, it means that we have a disease of desire. Try to remember that this week. Whereby our hearts desire to roam about freely in the vast spaces of thought and fancy, all the organs of the human body being subservient to the human heart. It requires them to be equally free. Salah demands the renunciation of such freedom and prohibits eating, drinking, walking, talking, etc. A restriction that the heart struggles with. And then we have that psychological running away. You know, when we don't want to face something, then we say, that didn't happen. I didn't see that. We all know about it. So we always running away, aren't we? I don't think that's what she said. I must have been hearing things. And we just conjure up all kinds of stuff. Salah is burdensome when the heart enjoys keeping the faculties of thought and imagination in continuous motion. And I want to say that I pray that one day I will get there. But when you do pray, and you have that experience, when your heart is actually still, when your heart is with Allah, and not with the world, it's like a revival. It's a reformation that takes place. There's a sweetness to it. You come away and you feel rejuvenated. You feel revitalized. But some of us can't wait. And the hadith says we shouldn't pray like the pecking of the chickens. And if you've ever been see the chickens, how they hop around and sort of do a little dance, one leg to the other. Their heads up and down, and sort of like this. They look like they're in pain, actually. But we have emulated them. When we go to prayer, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and we look like robots. And after the first recall, we go to the second, we say, I can't remember what ayah I read. Because our hearts are in the world. We have a disease.
Shaitan make it. Do what?
Motion is a disease. And it can be remedied by its opposite, which is called restfulness. All over the world, people are meditating. They're trying to find restfulness. Hence, the Holy Quran prescribed khushu', a word which we have rendered in English to be humbleness and presence of heart, which represents the restfulness of the heart. And that's what Salah gives us, folks. That first thing that we're going to be asked about on the Day of Judgment gives us restfulness of heart. So when our husband is worrying us to death, or our wife is worrying us to death, or our children are worrying us to death, or our parents are worrying us to death, because we know that sometimes children think my mom and my dad are getting on my last nerve. We know you think it even if you don't say it. That's the way you find rest. That's the real way of escape, folks. Not running away. Not pretending. But the real way of rest is through Salah. Through our own experiences, we all know how difficult this is. Hearing me speak about it today perhaps makes it sound very easy. But I want to tell you that it is a great jihad. It is a great struggle to try to conquer these prayers. To try to rid yourself of the desire to run away. The desire to move all the time, to be on the move. You ever met people say that person just can't be still? They're always on the go. They cannot be still. The human mind cannot move in two directions simultaneously. Therefore, one should make itself be absorbed in one thought alone, so that all other thoughts may disappear. Before I was a Muslim, I used to do some meditation where we would sit and look at a wall. And we'd put a dot on the wall. And we had to stay focused on that dot to see how long before our mind would drift. I was looking for restfulness before I ever became a Muslim. And I didn't know that it was through Sabah and Salah.
How long were you able to do that?
I don't remember the timing, but it's a tough. Try it.
Well, I know
Yeah.
Tasmania, scatterbrain over here, I can do it for 5 minutes.
The prescription of a restful heart requires a particular thought, which will, if one absorbs oneself in it, will drive away all other thoughts. Once the moment and fancy have been reduced, once the movement and fancy have been reduced to the restfulness of heart, the performance of Salah becomes easier, and the regularity of offering the ordained prayers gradually cures the disease of pride and ambition, and thus the way of perfecting one's faith goes smooth. Such is the well-ordered and beautifully integrated art of spiritual medicine that the Holy Quran has given us. This is the great prescription of life. But many of us will choose to try Zoloft, Paxil, Elex, anything in the world before we will try prayer. But imagine that if you could go 5 times a day and experience Salah, experience the humbleness of heart, experience no movement, no running away. The only appetite you would have would be to be in the presence of Allah. That's life-changing, folks. The thought in which one should immerse oneself in order to acquire the restfulness of heart has been explained by the Holy Quran in describing the humble in heart. those with a lowly spirit. They are the ones that bear in mind that they are to meet their Lord when they shall receive the reward for their obedience. And also bear in mind that they are to return to Him when they shall be required to present an account of their deeds. The first one being how they perform salah. These twin thoughts produce fear and hope in the heart. And hope and fear are the best agents for inducing a believer to devote themselves to good deeds. When you fear Allah, when you love Allah, when you know that Allah created men and jinns for naught, except that they should serve me. And let me ask you something. When you say Allahu Akbar, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Are you serving Allah when your mind is out there in the parking lot? Or are you serving your mind in all of its activities? The prayer the Holy Quran prescribes is not a mere contemplation or meditation. Al-Salah is the terminology of Sharia, is a definite form of ibadah, of worship, the mode of which is divinely ordained. As often as the Holy Quran insists on the performance of the Salah, it employs the word iqamah, except in one or two instances. Lexically, the word means making a thing straight, or keeping it firmly in its place. Where is the place we're trying to be? In the presence of Allah. A tree, wall, or anything that is vertical